vote for them.
Honourable Simon Bridges.
What an outstanding speech we have just heard from the Honourable Chester Burrows, delivered with heart and with passion. And he comes into this House and he shows us why we are proud of the New Zealand National Party and what we are doing in this country. Because we don't come to this House to deal with issues in the way the Labour Party does. We don't come with hollow rhetoric. We don't come here out of sectional interests trying to keep people where they belong. We don't come from the unions, from the teaching union. We don't come from the legal union. We come here because we want to deal fairly and honestly and responsibly with the issues this country has in front of it. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that Bill English and John Key have delivered this year a fantastic budget that this side of the House is proud of. We are proud of the budget that's been delivered in this House, and we are proud of it because it is the very best, most sensible budget that can be delivered in the difficult, uncertain times we are in globally and also in New Zealand. And Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that not only the New Zealand National Party but New Zealand can be proud of. And I want to go through some of what I think are the salient points, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, it is a responsible budget. It is a responsible budget. And they've gone quiet on that because they know that that actually matters. Whereas the Labour Party, as we've heard, in the good years, was spending like drunken sailors. $2.5 billion more this year, another $2.5 billion from Mr. Michael Cullen. And today, they're not sure where they are, whether to spend up or say they're responsible, they just don't know. But, Mr. Speaker, we will balance the books in 2014-15, and that matters to New Zealanders. They tell us when we're down at the schools, they tell us when we're at the health centres that they want that, and so we are delivering that for them. And that will deliver to this country choices and options and the ability to do things creatively, as we've heard. But let me be very clear, this wasn't an austere budget. This wasn't whatever that means. We hear about austere times in Europe. We do not have an austere budget in this country. And if we spent some $73 billion over this financial year, and we did that and we've proven it to New Zealanders, and they trust us on this. From 2008 to 2011, we kept our word, as we are this time. We kept our word. We smoothed off the sharp edges of the recession, and they backed us and gave us another term. But our prudent management, our balancing of the books, our reprioritisation means fundamentally we can spend more in the areas that New Zealanders tell us they want us to spend more in. And so we are spending more, over $1 billion more in health. And what an unalloyed success that has been in terms of more elective surgeries, in terms of redirecting into cancer treatment, into immunisation, and those are the things that New Zealanders talk to us about and that they want. Yes, as I say, reprioritisation in the health department so we can spend more and more. More money going in, Mr. Lees-Galloway. More money in Palmerston North, in Rodney District, in Tauranga, in Wellington, in New Plymouth, you name it, we're putting more in there. Education, and I'll come back to it, because I've heard the things, I've heard the heckling from the other side. More money, about $500 million more money in education this term. Welfare, more money into welfare. And that's because you can judge a society not just by how it treats the vulnerable, but how many vulnerable it creates. And we have heard, actually, a lot about the politics of envy, the kind of politics, actually, that the Labour Party like to play with. But let me put another phrase that's well known into this debate: the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that's what the Labour Party stands for, fundamentally. The soft bigotry of low expectations. Keep them on the welfare, because we know that that's where they should be, and we know that that is where they'll keep on voting for us. And so we are investing money into welfare to get people off welfare, so actually they can do well, they can get ahead. Because we know on this side of the House, unlike that side of the House, that what those people do, all people in all our communities do, is they aspire. They want to get ahead. They want their children to do well. And so, Mr. Speaker, I suggest this is an upbeat, confident budget, given the times that we're in. And given what we've been dealt with, and dealt to, I should say, the cards we've been given in terms of a global financial crisis, the worst in 70, 80 years, in terms of the earthquakes. And I'm not trying, Andrew Little, to politicise the earthquakes. They have been a terrible ordeal for the people of Canterbury, but we've got them, and that reflects what we have to do and the way we have to treat it. But let me be political about this. The other circumstance we've been left with, is the mess that the New Zealand Labour Party left us. The absolute mess. In 2008, every single quarter, negative growth. Negative growth. They had the good years. Cullen spent like a drunken sailor. And then when the times started to get a little bit tough, that's the way the growth went. And yet in our government, in 10 out of the last 11 quarters, we have delivered growth. In the toughest times this world's seen, 70 to 80 years, we have delivered growth. The one quarter we didn't, the first one before Bill English gave us his first budget. We've delivered 60,000 new jobs in the last couple of years. Those are the facts. We've grown the economy, as I've said, and as I think Scott Simpson made clear at the coalface when you're talking to property owners and new home buyers, we have in this country at the moment the lowest interest rates this country has seen in 45, 50 years. Results that talk, Mr. Speaker, results that most of the developed world would be envious of. Europe, America, Canada, Japan. And yes, okay, Australia doing well. We don't want to wish that away, our big brother next to us. But in this country, where today we have lower taxes, we have less regulation, jobs are moving here. And let me say another thing about this budget. It's always very important to look at the counterfactual, at what's on offer on the other side. And the other side, well, it's not nothing, it's a shambles. It's a shambles, Mr. Speaker. They're outdone by the guys in black and green on either side of them, who seem to be getting more media than they can, at least that's positive media, and they can't decide whether to save money and be prudent or whether to spend it and throw away. And so what they do is they double talk. They do both. They say both. They say we're going to spend more, we're going to spend less. We're going to be responsible, we're going to be reckless. And they oppose all the time everything we do that is constructive for this. Well, I'm coming to that. And I'm glad you mentioned their proposed retirement age, because, Mr. Speaker, that latest so-called policy or excuse of a policy that they give us is a shambles. They've said they'll put it up to 67, Mr. Speaker. Well, 67, they'll start doing that around 2020. But then was it yesterday, the day before? David Shearer, the leader, at least for the next week or so, he came out with a doozy. He came out with a doozy, Mr. Speaker. He said for manual workers, we'll put it to 60. Well, let's not worry about the cost. Let's just run through how that will work. Manual workers. If you thought taking GST, not Mr. Speaker, if they thought taking GST off fruit and veggies was a nightmare for the lawyers to get involved with, let's go with manual workers. Who's a manual worker in this country? Well, Shane Jones is a manual worker. He's only manual when he's watching videos in his own hotel room, Mr. Speaker. Trevor Mallard, well, he's manual when he's fighting with another member outside, but when he's running away, like that member did, when he's running away from process servers because he's scared of the full arm of the law, but that's caught up with him. Are they manual workers?
Oh, I'm terrified about it.
Are farmers manual workers? That policy, Mr. Speaker, is a shambles that they should be ashamed of. And when eventually they do get their next Prime Minister, the way they're going, it's not going to be Shearer, Cunliffe, Parker, Robertson, it could be Chippy Hipkins in sort of 2028. He might be their next one. When they eventually do, they won't keep with that shambles of the policy. So, Mr Speaker, here we have a responsible budget for the times, a budget that is dealing with a whole lot of uncertainty in the world, but nevertheless reprioritises the money, make sure there's more for health, education, welfare, science and innovation. It's a budget New Zealanders can be proud of.